Okay, great. So thanks again. I gave a session yesterday called Practical Applications of Vision AI, and the whole idea behind it is to talk about, there's a long history in AI, there's a long history in vision, and they're converging. We've done, and you'll see in a second, we've done a ton of work here around using AI techniques, specifically convolutional neural networks, in developing capabilities to analyze faces from videos and images. So, fast forwarding a little bit beyond that, the history here is that we've had the efficacy and the accuracy has been really, really low. And the perception of a human being has been better historically than the perception of a machine. That's totally changed now. So we're now at a point where if I take two like pairs of people, 98% of people will fail, whereas 100% of machines will succeed. And the challenge that we're trying to address, if I look at even like last year, and one of the things I gave in the talk yesterday was a quick primer on what we've seen as AI enhancements and innovations in the last 2 years. So if I go back 2 years, a year and a half, and I go to DALL-E and say, DALL-E, give me an image of, and I'll send you a picture of this, it's great. Give me an image of sled dogs in Alaska getting ready for a sled race. And it looks like something out of the movie The Thing from 1979. Today, exactly the same thing, that's 18 months. Today, do exactly the same thing, and it's huskies doing a sled race that I can't discern between reality and machine creation at this point. And the result of that is that people can now use those same techniques via a virtual camera and spoof anybody on the other side. So how does the human being on the other side know what they're seeing is real? Now flip that around for a second and say, okay, well, human beings aren't really as good at detecting fakes because the fakes have gotten really good. We need machines to detect fakes in the real world. So that's what the talk was about yesterday, is how do we apply the learnings that we have from biometrics, which we took 20 years to get right, to go from like 75% accurate, which is obviously not usable, to 98% accurate, which is arguably not usable either, up to like 99.85% accurate, which is where we are today as a company, or where we are as an industry. If you look at then the parallel of behavioral analysis and object detection, so from a surveillance perspective, and the room was full, we had 200 people in that room, and like a third of them were surveillance. I did a quick snapshot, like who's doing biometrics? I got 20 people. Who's doing surveillance? Half the hands go up. And what I tried to relate back to them was that in the surveillance world, you need to be really careful about what's high fidelity versus what is just interesting to take a look at. And the trade-off for us in this industry is things that are interesting to look at could have an actual real human impact. But when you draw the comparison to cyber, and because I spent 20 years in that industry, when you draw that comparison back to cyber and say, do I want to see all my alarms and logs? The answer is no, because we're dealing with billions of them per day. In fact, a long time ago, for the heck of it, we put sensors on the network side on Networld Interop. We got 445 million attacks in one day. So clearly a human being can't go back and analyze those. Machines have a hard time doing it. But in the human world, I don't necessarily need the high fidelity, because I want to go, if it's 50% probability someone's carrying a gun, I'm going to send out a guard to go check out and make sure it's not a gun, right? So we had a really good discussion about how you weigh fidelity and accuracy versus risk and threat, and then applying the AI techniques. Even though you may want to get to 100%, you may not need to get to 100%. So the way that you look at automating policies versus alarming versus logging is similar conceptually, but very different in action in the real world. So the talk was a lot about that. How do you use those AI techniques that we learned, convolutional neural networks, to look at frame to frame, and someone going in for a hug looks a lot like someone going in for a punch, depending on where you catch them in that action, right? The same thing as someone pulling out a wallet can look a lot like someone pulling something out of a holster if you catch them at the wrong point in that action. So evaluating what components of time to look at, there's a temporal nature and there's a threat nature. And we spend most of the time just kind of talking that through. So